fell asleep?
I believe towards the very end of the interview, he started kind of falling asleep.
What did you do when that happened?
I stopped the interview when I.
Welcome back to the Law and Crime Network, everybody. This is Jesse Weber. You are watching that testimony from the Jason Riley King case out of yesterday, when we saw this officer of the Highway Patrol testifying to his interview with the defendant, Jason Riley King, in that hospital room. We're going to play you that audio interview of the defendant in a little bit as we continue to cover this live case. Again, we do not have live coverage today in Jason Riley King. It will resume on Tuesday after the holiday break, along with the other case that we are covering, the William Woodward case. We're going to talk about both cases in a minute. But what I want to focus on right now is a new development in a case that's over 30 years old. So we're going to talk about it. This is right out of the FBI. The FBI Washington's D.C. field office has released images depicting what the suspects, the 4 remaining suspects, allegedly behind the 1986 hijacking of Pan American Airlines Flight 73. They're releasing images of what they might look like today. That's right. Based on photographs that the FBI obtained in 2000 and on the FBI technology that is able to do this, these are some photos of what the suspects may look like. And the suspects' names are Wadud Mohammed Hafiz al-Turki, Jamal Saeed Abdul Rahim, Mohammed Abdullah Khalil Hussein R. Rahal, and finally Mohammed Ahmed al-Munawar. These are the 4 remaining suspects that the FBI hopes to capture, to find and capture. These 4 men, as I said, are suspected of hijacking the flight on September 5th, 1986 in Karachi, Pakistan. 20 people, including flight crew members and passengers, were murdered in that attack. 2 of them were, in fact, American. More than 100 others were injured. The Justice Department is hoping that the new images will help lead to the capture of these suspects. You're seeing them right there. We're going to play them for you. They've used aged technology that will show you what they look like based upon these photographs. They're aged, so this is the best rendering so far of what these men may look like. The U.S. Department of State Rewards for Justice program is offering rewards up to $5 million for information that leads to their arrest or conviction. Now, joining me right now is former federal prosecutor Kendall Coffey. I'm happy we have him here because I want to talk to him about this. Kendall, what are the chances of these new renderings working in capturing these suspects? Does this technology actually work in helping to find people like this?
Well, I think the technology helps a lot. It's always a shot in the dark. It's a huge planet, and these 4 suspects could be in a lot of different places. But I think it's very important, not only in terms of creating a possibility of apprehending apparent terrorists, but also sending a message that the FBI is never going to sleep, that the United States is never going to sleep, that anybody who is implicated in terrorism, wherever they may be in the world, we're still coming after them. And this was, as you know, the Abu Nidal organization, which was one of the most ruthless of its kind, at least at the time. There's been as bad or worse since. But in the 70s and 80s, they were known for being ruthless to the point of psychopathic and attacking airplanes and airports, killing people around the world. And so there was a network of people, and presumably some of them know or can find these others. The process hasn't gotten there yet, but one of the realities is that when you post a huge reward, sometimes the word gets out and people are interested, because certainly in America, but everywhere else in the world, these kind of rewards, $5 million, is very, very significant. And I suspect that even if it isn't advertised directly, that one of the things that can be very attractive to people, in addition to the money, is that when individuals cooperate with the authorities, sometimes they get a visa for them and their family. And that is another part of the potential incentives that could cause somebody who might otherwise not want to be fingering one of these notorious suspects and staying in his city or village to face the consequences. But one of the things that makes these cooperation with the U.S. even more attractive is the opportunity to not only get the money, but get a new life in, frankly, a country where an awful lot of people would like to be living, the United States.
So you're saying it puts the fire under their heels a little bit, releasing these images. I'm wondering, why did it take so long? Why have we not been able to get more information about them? Why have we not been able to capture them? Why is this being released now? What's the update in this case? What's been happening since 1986 since the investigation into this?
Well, I suspect that they have some reason to believe that these individuals may be in a place where they could be apprehended. I mean, for example, and you and I don't know what the information is that the FBI has, but let's say that there's reason to believe that some of these individuals are in Libya, that it is believed that they are in communities that have access to the FBI website, and that and Libya was one of the last countries that was willing to play host to the Abu Nidal organization because of its notoriety and implications and brutal, senseless acts of violence and terrorism. So it may just be that the FBI got some new hope, or maybe some new information that the individuals might be subject to being located and being brought to justice. One thing about terrorism is that the U.S. Maintains a pretty strong position with respect to extradition and cooperation from foreign governments, so that if there is some local information that gets somewhere about these individuals, then you've got to think that the foreign government, wherever it might be, may cooperate. The other thing that I think helps the U.S.'s chances is this is a thoroughly discredited organization. This isn't a situation where we would be concerned that a foreign government would be trying to protect former members of the Abu Nidal organization. In fact, Abu Nidal may have indeed been killed on the orders of Saddam Hussein. That's how discredited this organization was with respect to its history of extreme violence.
Wasn't it a splinter faction of Yasser Arafat? Isn't that how it was formed in the first place?
Exactly, and it was a group. The core of the original membership was Palestinian, but they broke off, and even Yasser Arafat had no stomach for the likes of Abu Nidal because, again, of the extreme violence of their method, the really senseless, random character, which at times didn't seem to have an agenda except for violence itself.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. You talk about that $5 million reward, or up to $5 million. What is the potential for people calling in phony tips? You know, how do you avoid against that?
Massive. And it happens all the time to the FBI, even without the rewards. They will no doubt be getting, I'm not going to say hundreds, I'm going to say thousands of information leads that are produced by the release of these photographs in 5 million. But they're pretty good at screening through useless information and trying to identify what might actually be a meaningful lead, because they already in their mind's eye have a sense of where these folks might be, how they might be living. Yeah. And so, if they get a lot of tips that say, I saw them the other day in Central Park, they're probably not going to spend a lot of time chasing down that kind of lead.
Well, like also, isn't there the danger? I'm looking at the renderings right now. They seem very in-depth, but how accurate do they think they are? I mean, couldn't this be people mistaken identity, people thinking that they saw somebody that they really didn't? I mean, how I know it's tough to say, but this technology of taking a photograph and guessing what they might look like now, in your estimation, how accurate does that appear?
It's not perfect, and
right.
And there will indeed be people who seem to look like the rendering, who are not the actual terrorism suspect. And of course, it's hard to imagine that these individuals wouldn't have changed their names, perhaps more than once. But it's a pretty good clue. I think it's going to give an idea, and you've got to think that over the years that there is some awareness, whatever community they're living in right now, of individuals who have a dark past, or individuals who have a mysterious past, or maybe it's even known that they were once part of the Abu Nidal organization. So I think there are going to be people that see the picture, that it sort of more or less matches up to somebody that's got some very interesting questions about them to begin with, And I think there will be tips. Whether we get some or all of these four remains to seen. But as I was mentioning a little while ago, I just think it's a good message that the United States is never, ever going to give up on bringing people to justice who are involved in terrorism.
I agree. I think that's a really important message, and I think it sends a message throughout the world. I love that I have you on here because I just want to break it down for our viewers. We hear about the FBI's most wanted list. These four men are on the FBI's most wanted list. How does one get onto that list, and what does it mean to be on that list?
Well, it's of course determined by the FBI itself, and they consider a lot of different factors. But what it adds, being on the most wanted list, is a high level of basically publicizing the name, the face, and often associating it with their rewards. The FBI has a database of many thousands of suspects, defendants, fugitives at any given time. But when you're on the most wanted list, that's the group whose names and faces they're putting out there to other law enforcement communities, to every post office in America and beyond. And so it creates not only a greater awareness in terms of other communities here and around the world, but also the FBI's own sense of priority. Because if somebody's on the most wanted list and all of a sudden there's a real lead in some foreign city, then a lot of things are going to move at light speed to try to pursue that lead.
Kendall, what do you think? Final thoughts. Do you think this is going to provide at least some answers moving forward? Do you think we might be able to get one of these guys? Do you think we might be able to get some more information? And, we're talking about it. It doesn't matter how long it is later. You think we might be able to see something from it?
I think there's a real possibility for the reasons we've been discussing. The fact that this organization's discredited, badly discredited, and has been for years. There's not going to be any government trying to protect this particular group. The rewards are spectacular, and my guess is that the photographic renditions are probably pretty good and would give people throughout the world a fair idea of what these folks look like today.
Okay, everybody, again, we're showing these suspects. Again, I'm going to mention their names one more time, and then I'm going to provide you a website that you can go to and if you have any tips. Again, the four suspects are Wadud Mohammed Hafiz al-Turki, Jamal Saeed Abdul Rahim, Mohammed Abdullah Khalil Hussein al-Rahal, and Muhammad Ahmed al-Munawir. These four men, okay, these are the four suspects. If you have any information or any tips, go to tips.fbi.gov, visit the FBI or a local U.S. embassy or consulate for any information that you have. And by the way, any legitimate information about these guys. Again, there is a high reward, but if you have any viable information, that is where you should go.